Hello and welcome to Real WW Talk. I'm Rikki.
And I'm Candice.
We are missing our third of the three amigas here. Erin is enjoying her birthday week and she is not with us tonight, but Candice and I are holding on the fort. Happy to
We're
be
hoping
here.
she's having a wonderful time. It's always great to celebrate your birthday. I celebrate the whole month. So the fact
Of
that
course.
that's
No
the only
other
way to
way.
do it. So we'll figure we'll give her a week. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. So, Candice, I know I don't even know where we left off with how we're doing and updating, but how about, do you want to go first this week? How are you doing? How was your week?
My week was really, really good. I had posted that I am finished with my 4th round of chemo. And so I'm kind of on like a break I finished what is the most intense of the chemos. And now I'm going into a weekly regimen for the next 12 weeks. So I'm enjoying the week off from it and getting in a lot of steps, been walking a lot, trying to reach my Apple Watch challenge. And so it feels good to get moving and to get outside. The weather's been kind of up and down. We've been having a lot of rain. So
Yeah.
I've had to do some walking inside. So I've actually started mall walking in the morning.
That's a great idea.
And that's been really, really nice. And I know there's some people in our in-person meetings who had recommended mall walking. So if you're looking to beat the heat or it's raining, I recommend mall walks. How about you?
I love it. So my week was okay. I definitely have been getting into a new routine starting back for summer school. I decided not to do the whole summer off just because for me, sitting around not being productive is not the most helpful thing. So it's been kind of tough being off in the middle of the day. I find myself very hungry and having to really fight a lot of cravings to have, to have something to eat right at that moment. So I'm getting used to that schedule. And, I am bringing things with me for lunch. It's just a matter of not really having much time in that short amount of day to myself to actually sit down and eat it. But anyway, it's been good. I saw my doctor this week too. So I'm still keeping track of my blood pressure, which was a little bit high before, and it was really good. So I am on medication for that now, but it was in a good place, which felt good. But also, I do still have gastritis, and that was something I followed up with. But a couple more weeks and a little bit of a stronger medication is helping with that. Just having to stay away from acidic things for a couple more weeks. So. Yeah, I'm doing well. I can't complain.
Well, I'm glad to hear for the health wins, because
Mhm.
as you know, I'll take any health win that I can get. So hearing that you're staying on top of that is so encouraging. And also, trying to get into a new routine with your work and stuff, that's
Mhm.
always can be challenging. So it sounds like you're kind of navigating that and
Mhm.
figuring out how to make it work for you. So
Mhm.
hopefully
Yeah.
you'll settle in and kind of, get things going as you move along. So
Yeah, and by the time I do that, it'll be over.
that's what I
Because
said. You start to get, I'm a creature of habit, so I don't really like,
Mhm.
not to go back to the chemo, but I got used to the routine of the last
Mhm.
4 rounds, and now that it's being switched up,
Mhm.
it's kind of like you and starting this new schedule. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
I don't know what I know what the other things were. What am I doing now? So having
Mhm.
to be flexible and
Mhm.
not give into a doom and gloom thought about what it's going to be like. Um,
Exactly. That's
And that
such
kinda
a
goes
good.
into what we were you and I were talking earlier.
Yeah, that's a really good segue to just thinking about it. I think about that with myself because I have been diagnosed, if you want to call it that, with prediabetes. And,
Mm,
uh, we were talking about building these mental roadblocks and how we can think about what we need to do so much to the point where it almost debilitates us. And I feel that way with the prediabetes of the low carb diet. I have been on carbs as long as I can remember. and and just the idea of cutting cold turkey or eliminating them makes me feel like I already can't do it. And I don't know, can you relate to that?
only laughing because when you said been on carbs, it sounds like been on, like, drugs, like, it's like, "I've been on carbs for
They wanna-
years. I need to break."
They don't want the carbs.
Got to get rid of those carbs, man. It's just giving, but
It is,
no,
it's like a drug though.
but it really is. It
Mhm.
actually really is. So I joke, but
Mm.
it does feel that way. But no,
Mhm.
absolutely. I mean, the mental hoops that I go through to kind of project what it is that I think may or may not happen,
Mhm.
it's crazy because I can be so negative. Like, and I'm one, like I told you, that no matter what it is that I want to believe, whether it's good or bad, I can find things to support,
Mhm.
to support it. And doom and gloom has just been what I've been kind of conditioned to go towards. Like something's going to be really,
Mhm.
really hard to do. It's going to be really, really tough for me to be able to acclimate to this new schedule. I'm not going to be able to do it. And
Mhm.
finding things to support that. So, and then it makes me not want to get to do the action, whatever it is,
Mhm.
and I have to really figure out what it is that I'm so afraid of, or if it's, I don't know how to express it very well. Why
Mhm.
is it that I am so much more comfortable with a negative and pessimistic outlook as opposed
Mhm.
to a positive one? The positive
Mhm.
one makes me nervous. The negative one doesn't.
I think there's some nervousness about failure. I think it we've talked about protective things before, but I think it does in a way protect us because if we predict that we're not going to be successful or if we, you know, think about all the worst case scenarios and then we're right, it's like we're not surprised when
Yeah.
we if we fail. But,
Yeah.
then we are surprised in a good way if we're successful. But wait, why can't it be the other way around? Why can't we have the expectation that we'll do well? I think it goes back to our expectations realistic. And
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's hard because that, there's a school of thought that says that, whatever you feed is what you manifest, like what you manifest. So if
Mhm.
focus on negativity and negative things, it's like that you get negative outcomes. If you focus on
Mhm.
positive, and some may say you don't really have that much control, but I think in a way we do.
Mhm.
And I don't really love how I feel when I think negatively. And then
Mhm.
if the negative can't comes, I don't like how that feels either. But if the positive comes, I've spent all this time in a negative space unnecessarily, and then I feel guilty that I let myself stay. So it's like I just am, it's a circle. And it's like, what
Mhm.
if I were to try to say, this is something that I may not know the outcome, I may not know what is going to happen, but I'm going to assume a positive result. I'm going to find the good in it. And if I am disappointed, or if the negative does happen, fine, it
Mhm.
is what it is, but I gave myself my all in a positive space.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think it somehow feels like it's a lie. Like if I feel like you said, I feel like I would be caught off guard, and I feel like I would
Mhm.
then somehow feel like I didn't prepare myself honestly,
Mhm.
you
It
know?
it makes me think, I mean, that's a good point. I think sometimes we do like not necessarily know how to break down our goals into those really small, specific things. We talk about STAR goals all the time, but sometimes it seems silly to say, I'm just going to do 1 minute of working out, or I'm
Mhm.
just going to walk 5 steps, or whatever it is. I know that sounds horribly silly, but I'm thinking about a part in Atomic Habits, which I finally finished. Anyone who's
Oh, you finished the book. Good.
Yes, I finished it through the audiobook. So I read the first half and then I finally got a copy of the audiobook through my library. And this is Atomic Habits by James Clear, which has been a great book and really helpful advice on really getting habits down. I just need to take the steps. But one of the examples he gave was the man who would go to the gym every day. And
Mhm.
he started by going to the gym, going in. I think he did 5 minutes. It may have even been 1 minute. I can't remember if it was five or one. And then he left. And I'm sure there were people who looked at him and made fun of him. But it's like, if he's going to the gym every day he's building up. He's going to do more eventually, especially, you know, if you're taking the effort to go to the gym, you're at some point you might decide maybe I should do 10 minutes instead of 5. But my point in saying all that is I think sometimes we don't break things down enough into what we can do and what we are capable of doing without getting to the point of frustration.
Mhm.
Um,
But I also think that we minimize the minimization is also, again, a negative, right?
yes,
It's a
yes.
negative thought. I only did 5 minutes. You know,
Mhm.
if that's the way he framed it in his mind, then he wouldn't view anything that he did towards his health goals or whatever his goal was in a positive light, which means he probably was going to be disincentivized to continue doing it.
But
Instead,
the goal wasn't to work out the
right,
goal was to go to the gym,
right.
and he went to the
But
gym every day.
but I'm saying more how he's thinking of that. Like
Okay.
that's the whole point, right? He went to the gym, that
Mhm.
was what he did. I
Mhm.
think that sometimes if it's phrased in a way or if we think of that as silly,
Mhm.
then you have less of an incentive to want to do it. Kind of like you were
Okay.
talking about with low carb, or if I'm talking
Mhm.
about with starting a new chemo regimen or something with work. If I already go into it thinking that this is silly or thinking that
Mhm.
this is not necessary or that this is going to be tough or that's whatever it is,
Mhm.
I think we have less of an incentive to do even the action of just showing up to the gym. When you
Mhm.
find a
Okay.
purpose in creating a routine, you're not thinking of it negatively,
Mhm.
even no matter how long it is, or
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so do you think some of that comes from an overconfidence, which is it's weird to say that because I feel like my issue for the longest time has been a lack of confidence.
Mm,
But do you think sometimes when we think something it's silly because we're being overconfident in our
mm,
abilities and saying, well,
yeah,
I can do more than 5 minutes. Why would I just show up to the gym and do 5 minutes? I can do more than that. Like
mhm.
it's weird to have both the confidence and the overconfidence in the same place.
I actually think that's a really good point because we're like, what am I going to do? Go in and do one bicep curl and then go back home? You know, yes,
It's like I
right.
can do more, but I don't. I
But
don't
I
do it
don't.
at all.
But I don't, you know, yes, absolutely. I do think it's an overconfidence. But I also think if you view it that way with the overconfidence, which I think it is for the smaller tasks that you talk about breaking it up into,
Mhm,
but I think we also fall on the flip side into an underconfidence in ourselves. Is
mhm.
that if that's the best way to phrase it? Um,
Low confidence.
a low confidence in our ability when it comes to
Mhm,
things that we see as bigger when they
mm,
actually aren't.
right.
So whether that be making a low carb meal or
Mhm,
um, posting something, like I've been wanting
mhm,
to post to my personal Instagram a lot more because I just haven't been doing it. And
mhm,
I like sharing my meals and sharing stuff, but I'm like, oh, it's going to be so much. It's so much that I have to do. So I have like a low confidence in my ability to open up Instagram and snap a picture, which is really just not that difficult. But I've built it
mhm,
up to be this huge thing that it's
mhm.
not.
'Cause we
Um,
add in all the little things, right? You add in,
yeah,
"Oh, but I have to choose a background, and then I have to choose this," and by the like, you could have done that thing, and the time it takes to think about how long that thing would take to get done. I
yeah.
think that's absurd that we do that to ourselves.
But I think also it's the steps that we probably don't want to do, but also
Mhm.
the way that we've labeled the thing. So, um, because like if I have to plan a trip, if I want to go on a trip on a vacation, there's a lot of steps to get done. A lot. Planning a vacation can be very daunting, but because it's a positive, I might push through to get it done because I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm going on this trip. But because it's something that I framed as negative and built up as negative, that's stopping me in my tracks. So
Mhm.
um, with the chemo that I'm about to do, I've been researching side effects. Oh, I heard
Mhm.
this one can cause this thing and this one could cause this thing. Well, what about this thing? So, of course, now I'm scared and don't want to go and do it, as opposed to positive thoughts
Mhm.
about the fact that I can do these things to help mitigate these side effects. I can do this, I can do that. this is going to be an experience that is going to go by quickly. That makes me feel good. And
Mhm.
those are positive steps that I can take, no matter if there's a lot to do.
Mhm.
I'm not going into it afraid and talking myself out of it. If you want to
Mhm.
make a low carb meal, and I was bringing that up because you were talking about the carbs, it's just,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you were to be excited about it and to say, okay, this is something that is going to give me a really good opportunity, no matter how many steps it is. If you're excited about
Mhm.
what it is that you're making, you may want to do it.
Mhm.
But we view it so negatively. I can't have carbs for the rest of my life. This is going to be
Mhm.
horrible. I don't want to make this change. And therefore, even the smaller steps feel so huge.
Mhm.
And I think we feed those things.
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes we put it out there to other people to see what their reactions will be, like, oh man, I have to start this low carb thing. And then I think, and then you perk your ear up to see if people respond. Will they be sympathetic? Will they have suggestions? Will they say, oh, you don't need to do that? And, we shouldn't be getting that validation or that support to not do something from someone else. But I think sometimes we do put it out there because in the end of the day we do need a support system, and it is helpful to know what other people are thinking, but I should be able to make whatever life change I need to make without the effects of other people or opinions of other people getting in the way.
And that's a whole nother conversation because, you know, people are so fickle and opinions are like, you've heard the phrase, I'm not going to go there, but opinions are varied. We'll say it like
Mhm.
that. And so you
Mhm.
could talk to me and I could say, that sounds great what you're doing. I think that's absolutely what you need to do. And you could
Mhm.
talk to Erin who says, no, you need to go gluten free and dairy free and you'll be fine. Don't do
Mhm.
that. Who's right? I mean,
Mhm.
who do you value more? It should be really honestly neither of us. It
Mhm.
should be thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your opinion. I'm going to then make a decision about what's best for me because my voice is the loudest, or me and
Mhm.
my health, my doctor, whoever else, you know, that you
Exactly.
put at a level.
Mhm.
Because that's such a trap. And it can make you feel worse when somebody says something that could be triggering. Like I've had to
Mhm.
tune out a lot of people on my current journey that I'm on with
Mhm.
my health because you get people who are very, very negative. Oh
Mhm.
gosh, you have to go through chemo. Oh my Lord. Oh, praying for you.
Mhm.
That is just, I was sick as a dog. I mean, I was sick the whole time I did. You're like, okay, well, thank you.
Mhm.
I don't really claim that for myself.
Mhm.
But then you get people who are overly optimistic and that toxic
Mhm.
positivity. Girl,
Mhm.
it's nothing. God's got you and this. And you're like, yes, that's good too. But maybe it's somewhere in the middle. But
Mhm.
I'm going to choose to focus on my thoughts because that's what matters. And
Mhm.
know that everyone's opinions are part of the story, but it's not
Mhm.
all of it. And it
Yeah,
shouldn't be the thing that is the driver for what your actual decision is going to be.
exactly. I think that's the hardest part is building that strength within to say, even though I'm afraid of making this change, or even though I'm feeling however about making this change, I need to have decided for myself that I'm going to be strong in it. Because in the low carb example, I mean, I feel like this summer I've been out to brunches and different things, and it's so hard to order off of a menu with if people don't know that you're trying to make healthy choices. People will just insert their comments or opinions like, "Oh, that's all you're having," or, "Oh, why don't you have this? Oh, eat some of this. Oh my gosh, I got it for the table. You have to have this." You get the food pushers, you get the curious people, you get people who just want to like make you feel better, or they
Mhm.
assume that you don't feel good about yourself and you're starving yourself or whatever it is, and you have to decide in your mind before you go. It's such a mental battle. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to I'm not going to please these food pushers. I'm not going to give in to my own desire to eat
Yeah.
whatever it is on the table. I mean, it's a battle that you have to prepare for.
And a lot of the comments that you get from others are a projection of their own guilt or their own thing. So
Mhm.
if they're saying that's all you're going to eat, it could be that you making a choice that is the best for you reflects negatively on the choice that they want to make for themselves that they may not
Mhm.
feel is a good choice.
Mhm.
And you're making them feel uncomfortable because not because you're doing anything to them, but because you're highlighting something that maybe they wish that they would do.
Mhm.
And that's not your issue, and I think that that's my question to us both, though, is what is it that we are afraid of in terms of when we do make our own decision? Do you feel that if we were to own the decisions that we make, whether it comes to our health or actions, and not need the validation of others,
Mhm.
that if it were to be that whatever the decision was, if it didn't turn out to work out well for us, that
Mhm.
of it, the guilt of that not being the right decision would be something that we're afraid of? Because I think for me,
Mhm.
that might be at the root of it. It's like, I like to be able to blame other people for why things don't work. So
Mm.
if you
Mhm.
told me to go to make this recipe and I make
Mhm.
it and it's not good and none of my family likes it, I can say, well, Ricky's the one who told me to make it. She's the one who said it was good. I never said it was good. I mean, it's her fault. It's not
Mm.
mine.
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
I made the decision, I found the recipe and I owned it and said, I don't care what Ricky says. Ricky told me she doesn't like it, but I'm going to make it. And then other
Mhm.
people didn't like it. It's my fault and I'm a bad
Mhm.
person. It's like I
Mhm.
actually internalize it to mean that I'm a bad person if a decision
Mhm.
I make doesn't turn out the way I think it should.
Yeah. I think I can resonate with that, and I think that's the same thing we do with food. The same thing we do with making choices related to food. I chose to eat this food, and therefore, not only did I make a bad choice, I'm a bad person. I don't feel good about myself as a
Mhm,
whole. It's like not about the part of me that just made the decision. Myself as a whole does not feel good right now. And
mhm,
going back to part of your question though about like what do we fear? I think sometimes there's also just a fear of what if I am successful? You say that
mm.
quote all the time about,
What if
was
I
it from
fall? Oh, but my
Mhm.
darling, what if you fly?
But
Oh,
I think there's fear in the flying. I think there's fear in, for example, for me being a single person, I'd like to be dating. I'd like to marry, find someone to marry. And dating's always been very hard for me and scary. And talking to
mhm,
guys has just always been nerve-wracking for me. And I feel like I'll get to that point. I guess I'm just a late bloomer, but I think there's a huge fear in me that I've always blamed my singleness on my weight.
mhm,
And now that I'm at a point where I am trying to make these big changes to lose the weight, what if I still am single? What if still I'm doing air quotes, no one wants me because that's something I've decided, you
mhm,
know? What
mhm,
if I make all these changes and I'm healthy and I'm, living life and happy, and not that I'm not fully happy now, but what if I make all these changes and I'm still failing in this area of my life? And
mhm,
I think that's a big fear too. I think sometimes the positive is a fear for us. Like,
mhm.
can you relate to that at
Yeah,
all?
because if I were to say to you, Ricky, if I were to just factually say, what if you make all those changes and everything works out and you do get the guy and it works out, everything that you worked on, it worked.
Mhm.
Are you
I
like,
I'd
great?
probably be
Are
like,
you
"I
like,
don't
oh,
believe you. I don't
oh,
know."
okay.
Oh,
Uh,
really? It's that
right.
easy?
Yeah. Because
But it
that's also a possibility. And um that is something that I have learned and I have really been reinforcing to others that I speak to about, again, my current journey, which
Mhm,
is for every negative that you want to consider, right?
mhm,
I dare you to also it's almost required because you don't know. We don't know the
mhm,
future. We don't know what's going to happen. So if we can acknowledge that one fact that we don't
mhm,
know, then if you're going to consider the negative, you have to, by virtue of just being honest, also consider the positive outcome
mhm.
because they both
Yeah.
have the possibility of happening.
Mhm,
So again, going back to my chemo, this next round could be really, really tough and just have horrible side effects, or it could go
mhm,
really, really well. and I
Mhm.
could have none, just like I did, or very minimal, like I did with the other ones. Both
Mhm.
are there.
Yeah.
Why could I just not make the little mental shift to say, if they're equal options, I'm just going
Mhm.
to choose to believe the positive one over the negative
Mhm.
because it makes me feel better to do that.
Yeah.
We are so used to, I feel so connected to you, and that I'm so used to really pondering the negative one all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Like all the time. I
Yeah.
think, and you brought it up before with the singleness and other things. It's like we never start off the conversation with, oh my gosh, what if I am just days away from meeting him and I've made these changes? Like it's going to be so great to meet him with all of this stuff going on. And I'm not prepared for like having to plan a wedding and do all this in the next month because that's not, you're focused on, I'm never
It
going to meet
doesn't
him.
go there. Mhm. It goes
You
straight
know?
to the negative, and it doesn't allow, and after doing that for so long, after going to the negative for so long, it's almost like that's become my truth and where I've chosen to stay. And I don't wanna stay there anymore.
Because it doesn't feel good, and that's what I
Mhm.
think that's why we started this talk when you and I were talking before we started. It's
Mm.
we have to admit that we have a little bit of an addiction to unhappiness.
Mhm.
It's an addiction to an unhappy state and an unhappy feeling.
Mhm.
But the only way that we'll change it, Candice, speaking to myself, Candice, Rikki, everyone, is to recognize the habit and to make uh, an atomic habit change and
Mhm.
change
There we
to
go.
to say, I have considered the negative and I do that very well.
Mhm.
Bravo. I now must verbalize the positive outcome that could happen as well. And I
Mhm.
have to give equal time to my thoughts about that positive outcome.
I love
And
that
I
rule.
wonder, like I have to. That's the action step. I have to. If
Mhm.
I thought about the negative for 30 minutes, I have to think about the positive for 30 minutes
Okay.
and give it that same energy. And I think that we would
Mhm.
probably see some real change, in how things look, because I think that you are what you feed. You really
Mhm.
are. Not and people will say, well, that's not just how it works. It's not about thoughts, but I think it is.
Mhm.
It starts within your mind
Yeah.
because that it controls how you feel, even how we look when we're
Mhm.
talking. When we're thinking negatively, we're usually slumped over and very forlorn.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I always feel like when people are negative, they're so tired. It's just like,
Yeah.
ugh, I don't know.
It's
I guess
exhausting.
it's
Yeah.
exhausting. But when you're positive and excited, I see you when you're
Mhm.
talking about trips you've gone on with your friends and things, and you're just, yeah, I mean, I just got back and it was great. And I went to Paris and oh, I got this new thing for my house, things that make you happy. You're
Mhm.
vibrant
Mhm.
and your energy is infectious.
Yeah.
And I think that we lose that with our negativity. It literally seeps things from you,
Mhm.
you know?
And I think it's hard because some things like that, like those examples, are things that are factual. Like, yes, I did go on this trip. Yes, I did. So it's so much harder when there's things that haven't happened yet to
Mhm.
say, I know this is going to happen. I know the good is around the corner. And I think that's where the challenge comes, is when we know that there's, like you were talking about, many possible outcomes in the future. But I want to choose to think about the positive. I want to choose to say, I'm making steps in a positive way. I don't know what's happening next, but I'm making the steps that are going to get me in the direction of, and this is another James Clear. I'm choosing a vote for the person I want to be. Like today, this choice is one vote for healthy me, versus the unhealthy me.
Which
And
is what I
that is,
love about
yeah,
that. You
yeah.
know why I love that? Because that actually is your thing to be positive about.
Hmm.
Instead of choosing just using the dating scenario, instead of the positive being, oh my gosh, I can be excited because I met the guy. And that's what
Hmm.
I'm excited about. It's, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that whatever the step was that you felt was necessary. I went to the
Hmm.
mixer. I
Hmm.
went to the event and had a great time. I
Hmm.
got on my bike because I said that exercise was something that makes me feel confident. And
Hmm.
that's something within my control that I can actually see to
Hmm.
be happy about.
Yeah.
And because that's, like I want to celebrate. I'm cancer free. Oh,
Mhm.
it's gone.
Mhm.
That's not, I can't say that right now, but what I can
Mhm.
say is, oh my goodness, I walked 10,000 steps today. I got in the chemo chair even when I didn't feel like it.
Mhm.
I'm taking my meds. I'm doing everything that those
Mhm.
are the things that I'm excited about, because if I keep doing those things are supposed to lead me to
Mhm.
where I want to go.
They're a vote for who you
They're a
wanna be
vote
in the
for who
future.
I want to be.
Mhm.
And so that does give us something. We don't have to
Yeah.
wait. But I
No,
do
you're
think that
you're
we
right.
also could look at the negative too and say, well, I didn't work out today, or if I didn't take my
Mhm.
meds today, or who knows if this is going to work. I mean, I could be doing all this work and then it could not work out. Well, that's really, really negative, and I don't really like how that makes me feel at all. So
Mhm.
therefore, why am I doing that? You
Mhm.
see how when I even said it, I started to get like, it scares me to even say it. It's just, it doesn't feel good. And my friends, when I would talk to you and Erin about it, you'd say, please don't say that. Why are you being,
Mhm.
it makes other people uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable. There's a
Mhm.
reason why your energy is depleted when we're negative.
Yeah, that's very
So let's
true.
try to not be.
But yeah,
Feel so much
let's
better.
let's make those steps towards positive outlooks and positive views of ourselves.
And it's not toxic positivity. I do want to say that. It's not,
No.
I do not view what we're talking about as being toxically positive.
Mm.
It is appropriately proud and hopeful and optimistic about not
Mhm.
only our futures, but the steps that we're taking. Say it one more time, but what James Clear said,
A
the
vote
vote.
for the future self we wanna be, or a vote towards our future self.
I'm celebrating the vote that I took today towards the future me.
Mhm.
And if that was just showing up and walking or just making a low carb meal, I'm
Mhm.
going to take away the jest and say, I made a meal that
Mhm.
I loved and I walked.
Wonderful. That's all we can do sometimes.
But we just want to say thank you guys. I know been about it's a 30-minute chat. We talked a lot and about a lot of really good things. I always love talking to you. I feel like we could talk forever. But
Mhm.
for those of you all who we are so thankful for our almost 4,000 followers in our Facebook group. If you're looking to join us on Facebook and connect with other people who are on this journey with us, come join us. You can look for Real WW Talk on Facebook. We also are on Instagram, Real WW Talk, and Connect, and YouTube. And the biggest way that we would love, if you are one who's trying to get out and get your steps and enjoy podcasts, we have a podcast that, again, called Real WW Talk. Search for us on any of your Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're all there. We would love to connect with you. We would love to take you along with us on our journey. Erin will be back with us next week, prayerfully. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Rikki, it's been a blast. So
Yes,
we'll
it's
see you
been a
next
pleasure.
week. Bye.
Bye.